What's the most satisfying no you've ever given? We know you still have paid vacation days left, but we'd prefer you to stay and work. You'll get a small bonus. Nope. After quitting my crap job for my current, awesome job. Work per diem as an RN in a hospice. They are short-staffed and consistently add days to my schedule that are in the part-time category. I asked for PTO for those months where I worked more than my per diem contract and they said no because I was per diem and that category does not earn PTO. So now I say no to any request from them to work any extra shifts. Oh man. Okay, so I work for an anime convention. There is an incredible amount of drama and rumors that go around. It is insane. So this was a couple of years ago, and I happen to be waiting for an elevator with two girls who are talking about my convention's future. It's Sunday. It could be a 10 or 15 minute wait, and one of them says, "Oh my god, I am so glad. Convention is moving back to the Hyatt next year. We weren't. It wasn't big enough to hold us anymore, and it's always better to quash rumors before they have a chance to circulate too much." So I politely say, "Actually, it's going to be here again." I get these obnoxious know-it-all looks from both of them. One of them goes, "No, it's not. I heard it from my friend on security." So now it's a I know someone game. But my boss is the owner of the convention. I have held hotel contracts for the next 3 years in my hands. I know where it will be held. But I don't want to pull the I know someone higher up than you crap. That's petty. So instead I say, "Why don't you email in and settle this for us? We've got the time." So she pulls out her phone, goes to our website, finds the contact page, and starts typing out an email. She hits send. A few seconds later, my phone beeps. I've got a new email. I open it. It's clearly from her. It says, "Convention is moving back to the Hyatt next year, right?" I type back, "No," and hit send. Most satisfying no by a long shot. Dang, that's actually really badass. I was working in a toxic, limiting environment, wearing more hats than a British royal, with new responsibilities popping up every day. I would never say no because I enjoyed the challenge. However, when I pointed out my value but received a paltry increase, I decided to leave. I got a job offer that would basically double my salary, delivered my resignation letter, and all heck broke loose. A group of them took me out to lunch as a sort of intervention and basically did what they did best, delivered the hard sell. I'm integral to the business. They'll open up a career advancement path for me if I'll just hang in there. Yada yada yada. Then they made their counteroffer knowing full well how much my offer was for, and fricking lowballed me. Like I couldn't do simple math and would be swayed by a fancy lunch and the romantic idea of company loyalty. It's the best we can do just wasn't good enough. I got pulled aside by just about every single higher up over the next 2 weeks, and they all progressively sweetened the pot. I stood firm. Easiest no's of my life. I actually left that job with a sense of survivor's guilt about the people I left behind. My previous boss was a jerk, so I eventually moved to a different department in the company to get away from her. This department has to vet the stuff that my old boss's department does. The very first time I got to reject her was absolute toe-curling euphoria. I'm in this exact same situation. I start a new job today in my current company in another department that is way better than the one I was in. The best part was on Friday my now former boss told me that I was going to be on a 6-month retainer to help her train new people. I told her no, I will not be doing that, and my new boss immediately backed me up. I used to work as a refrigeration tech and had a job at the only employer in my county. They treated me like crap, cutting pay and benefits, giving us the bare essentials to do our jobs and complain when it takes us longer. Then another company opened up an office and started hiring a few of us. They offered me a job as a lead tech with a bunch of benefits. These folks and I clicked and I knew we would get along. My old employer came to my house and begged me on a literal bended knee not to quit. They made this speech about how they would give me whatever I wanted. I looked this man who had treated me so bad and just said no. Now get out of my house. Didn't realize how satisfying it was until a little ways after, but an ex-girlfriend was pressuring me to have unprotected sex very early in the relationship because she hated condoms. I said no for the reasons you'd expect. We broke up shortly after and I found out she had been sleeping with guys for coke the whole time we had been together. When the company I worked for eventually noticed that there just wasn't enough work out there, decided they needed to reduce staff and roll 3 positions into 1, and asked me, "Do you want to apply for the 1 position that'll remain?" I noped so hard that my boss's boss's boss scheduled a meeting with me to ask why I was so strongly opposed to staying. I was fired for refusing to work overtime hours for no extra pay. They kicked me out of the apartment provided to me and only gave me an hour to pack everything. They called the cops and had me escorted out of the building when I went in to collect my final pay stub. A week later, they sent me an email with a letter of reinstatement. I got it at 11 PM on a Friday night, and they demanded I come into work the next morning at 9 AM. I respectfully declined. I'm a small-time landlord. When I was just getting into things I made some bad mistakes. The neighbor of one of my properties is a very friendly guy and when I was doing renovations would constantly pop over to chat. Turns out his son and his girlfriend are looking for a place to live. Great. Saves me the trouble of having to hunt down a renter. I thought. I run a background check and there are some red flags but nothing they can't plausibly explain. They spend the next several months putting me through heck. They never paid their rent on time and towards the end didn't pay up at all. They trashed the house. There was little in the way of permanent damage, but it was absolutely filthy. They ground cigarette butts into the carpet and wrote booty on the side of the tub, etched it in and went over it in nail polish. I ended up evicting them and getting a judgment against them. I figured I'd never collect and never hear from them. Fast forward 2 years. The house is empty. I just had a tenant leave and I was about to start doing turnover. My phone goes off one day. It's my former tenant. His girlfriend left him. He's back living at home and he really wants a place to stay. Not on your freaking life. When you get out of the military, you go through TAPS. Transitions assistance crap. Teaches you how to live like a civilian again. At the beginning of the week-long course, they have a reserve recruiter talk to everybody to sign up for reserve duty. I was ready to get out and move on with my life and told the recruiter I wasn't interested. He asked me if I like drinking and hanging out on the weekends cause that's what they do. I said no. He looked at me like the butthole that I am and says, "Well, that's different." After my grandfather died, we had the usual thing where people come out the woodwork because they think they're entitled some part of the leftovers. So I go to my bank to deposit some cash in my account like usual, and my grandfather's financial advisor was there. She recognized me and asked if she could talk to me, and she began trying to butter me up into accepting her proposal that we liquidate absolutely everything in the estate. This meant that I'd lose my car, the roof over my head, and my mom would lose her car as well as that was also under the estate. Considering this was right after my grandfather died, I just knew there was an ulterior motive, so I said no. As the last surviving member of that side of the family who had control over the fate of my grandfather's estate, I wasn't about to risk losing everything. She got all angry and told me I was being a fool, but I doubled down on my decision and told her that they could have everything over my dead body. Turned out to be a smart decision, because some lawyers got to my mentally disabled aunt. Long story, and took pretty much all of the cash in the estate, leaving, you guessed it, all the property that we chose not to liquidate. The conspiracy theorist in me wants to believe the cogs were turning for my aunt's lawsuit way before I ever knew about it and the advisor was paid off or something by these lawyers so they could get more of the stuff they shouldn't have. Thankfully she was relieved of her job not long after that. Just knowing in hindsight that I stopped a lot of damage fricking myself over by telling that a shat to frick off with her boneheaded proposal makes it feel all the more satisfying. Got offered a new position in my current company. More responsibility, higher workload, no paid overtime, unchanged benefits, relocation to a country I'm not particularly fond of. Salary, we thought about offering you 12% increase. LOL frick no, thanks. My boss called to get me to come in on my days off to cover for the M-head who worked my opposite shift. The quote, "If you don't come in there will be no one to cover." Told her not to hire druggies, and enjoyed my 4-day weekend. Do you want to join the Marine Reserves? This was right after 4 years of active duty service in the worst unit and place possible. Many years ago I had serious problems asserting myself and would be walked all over as a result. One day my friend asked me to return snowshoes off at a store she rented them from on my way home from work. I obliged, and found out when I went to return them that there was a significant late fee on them and was forced to pay it. I then got in my car, drove off and cried, not knowing if my friend would pay me back and also feeling like once again I didn't stand my own. That's when it finally dawned on me that this was a perfect opportunity to try asserting myself as I had been learning to do in counseling. I turned my car around and returned to the store demanding my money back. I even had to speak with the manager, but eventually they complied and returned my money to me. How they arranged the payment with my friend was their problem, not mine. It seems like such a small no, but it marked the turning point for me when I started standing up for myself. The effect has snowballed, and since then I have a substantially happier life and am very clear about my boundaries and my expectation that they be respected. I generally have no problem saying no and would describe myself as an assertive person. Recently, I am a paramedic in a major city. On a particularly busy day we get dispatched to a cardiac arrest. We fly over there in about 6 minutes through heavy traffic. To give you some context, that is a segment 1 priority of 8. This gets an M supervisor, police, hopefully with a need, fire engine company, EMTs and us, paramedics. When we get there a co-worker greets us and tells us the patient's leg has been hurting for 2 days. Wait, what? Turns out they had waited 40 minutes for an ambulance because it was very busy and the other units were handling sicker people, like people in actual cardiac arrest, and the caller friend took it upon herself to say the patient was now dead, just to get us there faster, cause it was Friday and they were closing soon. The satisfying no, after she admitted to us what happened. After all 12 of us came upstairs to resuscitate the patient, she had the gall to ask to ride with us to the hospital. Best no, absolutely not. Call a cab ever. She looked so sad and shocked, and the PT had sciatica by the way. We did nothing but take vitals, and the hospital was less than a mile away. Deleted. I work at a restaurant and one day the duty manager who everyone hates is doing his thing where he makes everyone else do his tasks and then gets angry cause we close late because of the extra work. He always seems to not notice that part. Because we finished late, he asks for a ride to the road a block over, else he has to walk 10 minutes home. Of course the road a block over means to his doorstep. So I flat out say no and proceed to drive past him as he walks home in the rain at 11:30 at night. We make eye contact as I go past and it's the most satisfying thing I've done in a long time. You even maintained eye contact to establish dominance. Good job. My wife volunteered at a place where she routinely had contact with the public. She met new people all the time, but really clicked with one woman in particular. They went out for coffee, found they had a lot in common, and agreed both couples should see a movie or have dinner or something together. One evening the woman calls my wife and says something like, "I think we are right near your house. If you are free can we drop by and our husbands can meet?" Sure. We talk for a bit. I can see why my wife gets along with the woman so well. And then suddenly the guy hands me some kind of brochure. It's Amway, by another name, one of the spin-off companies. Nope. Sure. Cool. Just take a look. Okay. Next day the woman calls again. "Hey, the regional manager happens to be in town. He is really a great person and I think you should meet him and you can tell him what you think of the stuff we showed you." Nope. I'll put everything you left me outside my door if you need it. We're not interested and there's nothing to talk about. Half an hour later the doorbell rings and the manager, who I have never met before, finds our door unlocked and walks in followed by our new friends. "I don't really think you understand the opportunity you are passing up here." I said the thing that every homeowner should say at least once. "Get the frick out of my house. You don't need to be rude about it. You haven't heard me saying no yet, so obviously I do." They skulked out and that was that. Greatest no I have ever uttered. Former employer hired a girl to replace me after I quit. When she couldn't do what I could do, they told her to call me up for help. For free of course. My response was, "They didn't treat me very well and showed me no respect. You have all my files. which was more than I had, since I created them from scratch. Good luck. Their company went out of business within 6 months. A company I worked for passed me up for a raise, saying that I wasn't committed enough to the company. I quit the next day and they hired a person to do my job. Then they hired another 2 people to do that same job. I actually can't believe they cost themselves that much. My entire family telling my mum and I to give my baby niece back to her amusing mother. My niece had been starved, abused and hurt. I got to tell every sucker at that meeting number. She still lives with us 5 years later and is the happiest, healthiest, kindest, most wonderful darling girl in the world. God, people are so freaking weird about moms. I'm cutting my neglectful alcoholic mom out of mine and my daughter's life. Everyone is like, but she's your mom. I don't give a frick. I'm not letting her hurt my daughter like she hurt me. Congrats on keeping that toxic woman out of your wonderful niece's life. I have difficulty standing up to bad employers, butthole managers, people with no concept of logistics etc. It's more or less a result of spending a long time in hospitality. I switched industries to do construction in the last year, went back to school to learn the basics of several trades. I took this crappy concrete job I found online. The guy who runs the company is a one-guy operation, which isn't super uncommon where I live. He basically said he just hires 3 people for his busy season before it snows. I told him I don't know a whole lot about concrete other than some brickwork and he was okay with it. Less than a week into the job, this guy is berating me and calling me an idiot every 10 minutes. Completely humiliating me whenever I ask for clarification on tasks and telling me his 8-year-old son knows how to drive and I must be brain dead to not. He asks if I'm on lithium for making a mistake on the first try for doing something. Refacing concrete. Everything set this psycho off. I feared my own safety sometimes. He does this for another week and a half. Somehow I put up with it. We went back to the city, 7 hours drive, for a day off and I offered my direct deposit information and he said no, just bring it the next day when we go back out of town. I said number, I won't be returning. I can't deal with your ineffective communication and poor managing skills. He just started screaming that I wasn't as mechanically inclined as he had thought and that I'm a terrible person that will never succeed at anything. I honestly think he needed a certified concrete finisher and that's his own fault for just seeking out people with no experience to treat them like a subhuman parasite. I was a restaurant manager in a hotel. Years ago, I was called to the bar, as one of the bartenders had made the call to stop serving a group of guys. These guys were celebrating one member of the group's wedding, happening the next day. The bartender pointed out the man who wanted to speak with me. The man engaged me in pretty reasonable conversation, and didn't seem intoxicated. To my very practiced eye, he used a whole range of persuasive tactics. He appealed to my empathy, apologized for any prior bad behavior, promised to keep his friends under control, and, finally, he showed me his badge, proving that he was an off-duty police officer. Even though it was policy to always support staff who make the no more booze for you call, I was wavering. The guy was super nice. Just when I'm about to relent and tell my bartenders to serve the group another round, the groom leans over to me and yells, "Hey cocksucker, get me another freaking drink." The guy who had been pleading his case and I both started laughing. Immediately. "So, that's pretty much it, right?" He continued to laugh. "I'm afraid so, sir. You gentlemen have a good night, and best wishes on your marriage, sir." I love this one. Just as you're doubting yourself, you get all the reinforcement you could possibly need. Also, it sounds like the group definitely sent over the right representative to plead the case. I'm imagining the alternate universe where "Hey cocksucker" guy was the one trying to convince you. 8 years and off and on with the same guy, and like an idiot anytime he'd beckon me back, I'd come crawling. Didn't matter who I was with, what was going on in my life, I'd drop anything to try and make this relationship work, along with a heap of other excuses as to why I would every time. One of his excuses was that he wanted kids, and it just wasn't happening with me. 2 years go by, I find myself a year and a half into a new relationship, where I finally found out what a relationship was supposed to be like. My ex calls. He found out he was going to be a dad, but things had ended between him and the mom. He was finally getting his baby, and finally ready to settle down with me. Saying no to that with a few choice words was such an amazing and empowering feeling. And the fact that I'm still with the guy I was with at the time makes it feel that much better. When I was about 11 years old, I got bullied pretty bad at school by 3 guys who were a year older. I had braces, glasses, and my ears stuck out a bit, so they would wait for me after school to follow me home while insulting me all the way there, calling me ugly, disgusting, Dumbo, and shoving me. Fast forward to when I was 18. I wore contact lenses. I grew into my ears and my teeth were fine thanks to braces. I was going to college, did some modeling, and worked as a bartender on weekends. One night, these 3 guys came in. They stayed friends all these years, which is kind of cute. They saw me, but I noticed pretty quickly that they didn't recognize me but thought I was attractive. They kept hovering around the bar and ordering drinks. Especially one of them seemed to get pretty serious. He kept coming to the bar the following weekends and just sat there trying to talk to me. One night he stayed until morning when I got off work. So he walked up to me outside of the bar and said something like how he was falling for me and why I didn't pay any attention to him, and if I'd maybe wanted to go on a date with him. I said no. I told him my name and what he and his friends did to me. He went pretty pale. I said that I'm not angry about this anymore, but that to him, this was just some bullying, but to me it was years of insecurities to work through, and that I'd rather he just stayed the heck out of my life. My cunty ex would text me randomly when she was feeling down or her newest flavor wasn't giving her the emotion she needed. Finally I told her to delete me freaking number and never speak to me again. Delete me number. ARRRR. Ran into my psychotic, physically, sexually, mentally abusive, sadistic ex-boyfriend 3,000 miles away from where we grew up. Turns out we both moved to the same city on the opposite side of the country. WTF. He wanted to talk. Kept bugging me in emails after this to hear him out and properly apologize. I caved and one night met him in a very public setting with a bunch of my friends sitting at a table near us. I listened for a long time to what I thought was a pretty heartfelt apology, with some nice words about how he has changed so much and doesn't treat women the same anymore. How he thinks about me and what he did to me and how he vows to never do anything like that again, to anyone. I felt pretty satisfied, because for a long time I had lost sleep wondering and hoping he wasn't doing these things to any other poor girl. It took a lot of consideration for me to even meet the guy and listen to him. So at the end when we were cordially saying goodbye and he casually says this is so good, I always knew we would end up back together. With this crap eating grin on his face, I realized that this was all a big charade. His apology was worth jack crap, and he was still the same narcissistic freak he had always been. Most satisfying nope ever. What a C. Good on you. My scout troop a long time ago, for some reason, the parents who ran it didn't like me and my sibling. I have no idea why. Said one year that if we joined back up, the troop would disband, so we both quit. Then, later that year, they needed 2 more people to be able to go on a Asserting trip, so they invited us back, and we gave them the big fat double deuce. That's unfortunate. My brother's old Cub Scout troop had a woman who would nag on my mother for showing discomfort while going through chemotherapy. Me and my buddies all used to be into opiates a little bit. A good amount of them are still stuck in that lifestyle. Well, one day I'm at a friend's house watching some football and another mutual friend comes by. He mentions he has some Apana and would let me do some for free. I know the cycle too well, and that free fix is the first one in a huge downward spiral of getting your opiate fix. All I said was nah, I'm good, and haven't looked back since. Kinda wish those guys didn't use that crap anymore, but you can't help people who doesn't wanna accept help. I have a friend that dabbled in a little of everything, then tried opiates. The next 2 years were a wreck. Lucky she got away from that lifestyle and will almost have a panic attack if anyone mentions an opiate. She's absolutely terrified of them now. I'm proud of her. Good job getting clean, man. An ex-girlfriend who cheated on me her first semester at the college that both of us were going to. I started a semester later. Asked me if we could still be friends. I told her, number. Friends are people I know I can trust, but I can't trust you anymore. I got into the University of Chicago PhD program for economics. I went to visit them, and man, all the people I met and talked to were such buttholes. Even though you'd think the idea would be to attract people to their program, They were doing the exact opposite. I tried to talk to them about getting more financial aid, and the guy I met with literally said, well, you're not as smart as the people we gave full financial aid to. If I'm not smart enough for your school, don't accept me into your school. Don't fly me out and act like total dongs. Then I talked to a professor whose work I really liked, who did interesting research about helping people in developing countries, and he was such an butthole. He basically told me that he was going to be mostly teaching in the business school because that got him way more money, so who the frick cares about his previous research that was about helping people? I told him, no thanks, I'm going to a school that might not be top 3, but it's a very good program and it's not full of buttholes. They were shocked. I don't think it ever occurred to them that I would turn down their super awesome elite program. Best decision I ever made. TLDR. People in the University of Chicago economics program are a bag of dongs, and rejecting them was super sweet. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.